Breaking roster news for Florida State this weekend as wide receiver Jaylen Brown is no longer a part of the FSU football program. Joining me to talk about that right now, managing editor of Warchant.com. He's Irish Ravel. My name is Tom Lang. Hit the thumbs up, not for this news, but if you enjoy Florida State news and content here on Warchant TV. Ira, this has been a position that's been leaking oil of sorts. I think Florida State was okay with some of the departures for different reasons earlier in the week. But Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, the news comes out that Jaylen Brown is no longer a part of Florida State's football program. They were not anticipating this, I don't imagine.
No, I mean, clearly not. And the fact that, he went through the entire spring semester, basically, I guess classes have another week or two left, but spring football wraps up. This was supposed to wrap up this weekend. Obviously, with the tragedy on campus, they canceled the last couple of days of practice. But yeah, I mean, he was part of the team all spring, was one of the receivers that we thought might be in the mix for even maybe a starting job, if not probably more like a second team guy, but definitely part of that rotation. Really highly rated recruit coming out of high school a couple of years ago. And, we haven't really seen him be an impact player, but there was thoughts that maybe he would be in 2025. And then, as you said, when we heard he was no longer with the program, I talked to somebody at FSU and they said, yeah, he's been dismissed from the program. So this was not something that anybody saw coming. I think it was due to probably some events over the weekend.
Well, so now Florida State is a lot thinner at this position, and just to revisit something that Mike Norvell said only a couple of weeks ago. I remember Corey asked him in one of the press conferences after practice, "Is there a young player at receiver that is not new to the program that has emerged?" And I think most fans, when they hear that question, perk up and they're waiting to hear the name Hakeem Williams. Well, the name they heard was Jaylen Brown, so it seemed like he was trending, as you're saying, towards at least having a significant role in the two deep. And now Florida State is, I don't want to say scrambling, but they're going to have to fill a role that it seemed like they had something carved out for Jaylen Brown. He wasn't going to be somebody just developing into the fall. It sounded like he was actually going to get some time on the field on Gus Malzahn's offense.
Yeah, and I think, there's a lot of the immediate reaction on our message boards. Listen, man, Jaylen Brown was not a super popular player last year in his first year at Florida State. There were a few plays. There was that one pick six, I think, against Duke, where he didn't look like he gave great effort chasing the ball down. There were a couple other plays as well, maybe didn't block or didn't, give great effort. So he was not necessarily very popular among some of the diehard Florida State fans. So when they hear he gets dismissed, they figure, okay, well, he's obviously done something else wrong. He's probably been a pain or a problem for a lot of his time here. And so why have they put up with it this long? Well, I think you just touched on it. He's a talented kid, and he was making strides on the field. Last year, he was a guy that, brought speed to the position. But, I think he maybe battled some stuff and just was not a consistent player. He had 8 catches for 75 yards. There were some games he was not a factor at all. Several games he was not a factor at all. But it did seem like, with a new receivers coach and a new offense, that this might be more suited for him. It's an offense where they really try to get guys in space and put the defense in conflict with tempo. And now you've got a guy with Jaylen Brown who has elite speed. That's what you're looking for. So I think they were definitely trying to make it work. So it's a significant blow. And especially when you, as you said, you added on top of Hakeem Williams and on top of Jordan Scott, which Jordan Scott probably wasn't going to be a factor in the rotation, certainly this year. But Hakeem and Jalen probably would have. So now that's 2 big pieces out of a receiver room that was, not good last year. So it's definitely a concern.
So just to put a ribbon on this particular issue for dismissal, if you're joining us right now and you're saying, well, what did he do? This is where we probably need to play a little bit of transitive property plus common sense, Ira, in order to piece together maybe some clues as to specifically what happened with Jaylen Brown. But if you wouldn't mind exercising those properties and that common sense, why do you think, in your best estimate, Florida State parted ways with Jaylen?
Yeah, I mean, it seems pretty much 100% sure. Just not enough for me to write it. I don't want to put it on our website as an official story right now because and write it as fact because the way police reports work is there may be the initial information that there was an arrest or a booking will be in the database or the court at the Leon County Court. No matter if they're arrested by FSU police, if they're arrested by Leon County Sheriff or Tallahassee Police or FDLE or whoever, FBI, whoever it is, it'll go through that booking agency if they get booked into the Leon County Jail. Jaylen Brown was arrested early Saturday morning, late Friday night, and charged with possession of a controlled substance without a prescription, and it's a felony in the state of Florida. And same name, date of birth 2004, which would jive with the guy in his third year of college. So I'm pretty sure it's him, but it doesn't have the full report is not up. And until the full report is up on the database, you can't see the real date of birth, and you also can't see a picture of the person. So I don't feel comfortable. Is there a chance another Jaylen Brown was arrested the same day that Jaylen Brown and the football team got kicked off the football team? Probably not likely. Also 20 years old or 21 years old, probably not likely. But I just don't want to put it out there until we see the actual police report, which hasn't been posted as of the time we're taping this. But I'm assuming that's what it is. And listen, man, that's one of those things that's not always an automatic dismissal. There have been players, athletes at Florida State and many other schools that have had arrests for drug possession or different or failed drug tests or different situations. And sometimes it's a dismissal, but a lot of times it's not a dismissal. The fact that it was, if that's what it was, makes me feel like, okay, maybe this was your last strike, that you've had enough incidents, especially if it happened that quickly. According to the police report, if that was the same Jaylen Brown, which we're pretty sure it is, it was 1:30 in the morning. He was released on bond at 2 in the morning. By lunchtime, he had been dismissed from the team. So it seems like if this is what it was, it probably was maybe a last strike.
We've all seen My Cousin Vinny, or most of us have out there. So maybe there is a situation here where you got the clerk in the Buick Skylark. But I think we all know which direction that this is probably headed, and 1 + 1 = 2. But for Florida State's wide receiver board, now this is an opportunity for other younger players on the board or other role players to maybe step up some more. We know that Deuce Robinson and Squirrel White are going to be leading the way for Florida State. We know that they could very well be interested in the portal, perhaps dipping into the portal to go grab another player or two because of these departures. But there are players on the roster who, if they're just looking at it cold-blooded wise and looking for snap counts and opportunities, there's a lot of guys on this roster that might be in a position now to make some noise for summer workouts and to fall camp. And a couple of those names that Florida State fans ask about a lot, like an Elijah Moore, like a LaWayne McCoy. Who are some names that you would look to as candidates to fill in, to step up? And then what would your recommendation be in terms of transfer portal approach for Florida State?
Yeah, well, for starters, like you said, Deuce Robinson's number 1, Squirrel White's number 2. No matter what has happened over the last week, nothing has changed there. I'm also I feel pretty confident in the fact that Javen Boggs was probably number 3 no matter what. I feel like he had proven himself this spring, and he's only been on campus for a couple months, and he's a true freshman. And we've heard more good things about him. Like, nobody had to be prodded to talk about him the way Mike Norvell maybe was prodded to talk about Jaylen Brown. So I think I think there's a very good chance he's going to be one of those freshman receivers that plays right away, which happens. And it doesn't always happen for Florida State, but I think it's going to happen for Florida State this year. And then, as you said, LaWayne McCoy is a guy, I think to me, he's kind of the wild card because, he's a guy that certainly has the talent and has shown the potential in practices last year and before he got hurt this spring, is a guy that, they think the world of, and they think he can really be a big time player. So now that gives you 4 that you feel pretty good about. Elijah Moore, as you said, is somebody that's kind of been on the cusp, wasn't ready enough to get on the field much last season, has had a pretty good spring. They still talk about wanting more consistency out of him, but he is 6'4", he can run, he's got ball skills. So now you've got, 4, maybe 4.5 that you feel pretty good about. And then, you do have a couple other guys that maybe can step up. A Mekhi Danzy. To me, Mekhi Danzy is kind of a natural, maybe a replacement for Jaylen Brown because of the skill set. Also not a real big guy, probably not real physical, but can really run and is probably the fastest receiver on the team. So, again, if you're looking for somebody as the Gus Miles on offense, which we know is going to do, it's going to pound the ball at the middle. It's going to go east to west, a lot of controlled passing game and running game. And then they're going to hit you over the top. And so I think Mekhi Danzy's a guy. The other guy that, nobody's ever going to talk about, we probably won't write about him until he makes catches in games is, I love Willie Suarez, who walked on last year and just all he does is make plays. He made a ton of plays in scout team last year. The scrimmage we were at that was open to the media, he probably caught 6-7 balls. I I think he's, he may be another guy in the slot that can be a real factor. And then, could a Camden Fryer, could some of these other guys emerge? But, you really only have 3.5, 4.5, maybe kind of sure things. So I think they are going to have to go in the portal. Whether it's one guy or two guys, we'll see. But they're definitely going to have to get somebody. It doesn't have to be a superstar, but I think they have to have a couple of capable, reliable receivers that have some experience, right?
Yeah, unless you want to lean very heavily on a deep tight end room and one that has, varied skill sets. But you don't want to have to do that. You'd prefer that you can deploy some of those guys out wide because you want to create variety and create mismatches, not out of necessity. This is something we'll be watching here at warchant.com. For more information on this particular story with Jaylen Brown, head over to warchant.com. Ira's article is posted as of Saturday. And then also, what is Florida State going to be doing in the transfer portal? Sign up at warchant.com for $1 for your first week. Join the largest FSU fan community in the business. This is a busy week because the portal is open for another week. So if you want all that news, all those developments about who's coming and who's going on Florida State's roster, head over to warchant.com. But before you leave this video, go ahead.
And I was just going to say, and Matt, I believe Matt or Michael or one of the others is working on a story about transfer receivers that Florida State that makes sense for Florida State. Florida State extended an offer to a receiver in the portal today, and there's a couple other guys that they think Florida State could be looking at. So look for that on the website as well.
Head over to warchant.com right now and sign up if you haven't. If you have, well, we'll see you over on the boards. He's Ira Schafel. My name is Tom Lang. We'll talk to you right here next time on Warchant TV.